Hello and welcome to another SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So, in this episode, I will be discussing the 2017 science fiction movie Ghost in the Shell, directed by Rupert Sanders and based on the Japanese manga series of the same name by, and apologies, Masamune Shirow. So, as a disclaimer, I may give some spoilers for this film in my discussion, and so please do switch off now if you don't want to hear any plot details for the film. But please do come back to SciFirst MovieTalk. Let me know what you thought of the film. Let me know what you thought of my review. When you've watched the film and things. So, but you've been warned. So, also, please forgive me. My pronunciations of some of the names in this film aren't going to be spectacular. I don't want to offend anybody. I'm going to do my best to say them correctly, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to get that done. So, the film is kind of set in a version of the future where the lines between like computers and technology and humans have been blurred so much that it's kind of certainly difficult to tell one from another. Humans can be enhanced with synthetic, robotic and mechanical upgrades and cerebral implants, which kind of enables them to seamlessly integrate with others and on different levels of tech. So the film stars Scarlett Johansson as Mira Killian, that's it, or Major, as she is mainly known by in the film, who, to save her life following a near-fatal traumatic accident, had kind of undergone a revolutionary procedure, the first of its kind, to transplant her brain into a robotic body, to become a cyborg, if you like, with a number of high-tech enhancements. Technically, she's the property of Hanka Robotics. The film kind of follows Major's story as she then kind of works as part of a crime-fighting unit, I think anti-terrorist unit, yeah, known as Section 9, and uncovers a plot by a terrorist known as Kuze, as played by Michael Carmen Pitt, to bring down Hanka Robotics, the cybernetics company that, of course, created her. Things don't actually go quite to plan, however, and all may not be what it seems, as Major kind of learns more about her past and that perhaps all that she has been told may not entirely be the truth. The film also stars Peter Ferdinando as Cutter, the head of Hanka Robotics, and, apologies, Takeshi Kitano as Chief Daikusu, or head of Section 9. Additionally, the film features Pilu Ashbik as Batao, Chin Han as Tongusa, and Danisha Samal as Lidra, who form part of Section 9 team working with Major. Look them up. So, what I would like to say in reviewing this movie is that I have no knowledge of the manga series on which this film is based, so I can't comment on how this kind of ties in, whether or not it is a satisfactory adaptation in this respect, and whether or not it even comes close to following any of the story or characters. So, if you do know of the series, I'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are on the film with respect to this. So, comments, please, down below. So, yes, my review is based solely on the movie itself. So, what I must say right away from the offset, the very first thing that you notice about this film is its depiction of the future. The special effects used and the graphic representation are just simply stunning. And the fight scenes are brilliantly choreographed with some really simply excellent cinematography going on throughout that sort of first sort of sequence, if you like. The way it was filmed to start with reminded me of some of the more alternative kind of 70s, 80s sci-fi movies, almost akin to the likes of, 1973's Soylent Green, 1971's THX 1138, and certainly, moreover, 1982's Blade Runner. Lots of kind of sweeping scenes, long played out dream and character sequences. Very artistic, I would say, in its visual style and cinematography at that point. In fact, at the start of the movie, the music, as composed by Clint Mansell and Lorne Balfe, really makes this film pop, and gives it that real kind of futuristic edge. And yes, again, sounds very reminiscent of the themes created by Vangelis in the original Blade Runner movie. It is quite an intriguing premise, and yeah, I would agree. The film sets itself up quite nicely at the start for a real interesting take on a concept which could in fact, perhaps one day be more science than fiction. But where it kind of takes a more artistic and unique-ish approach at the start, sadly, kind of once we start to unravel Major's past, the film kind of really doesn't come up with anything we haven't seen in other films numerous times before. In fact, it's pretty much a glammed up version of 1987's RoboCop when all's said and done. Even the ending was extremely similar in its execution. Okay, the story was different up to this point, but in the end, it degraded into something which had been done before. In that we even have a fight scene between a cyborg and a robotic tank, like the machine. Like a robotic tank-like machine designed to fight crime. It even had a corrupt individual at the head of an organisation behind everything. All very much like the Omni Consumer Products, OCP Corporation in RoboCop. Very similar. From a character standpoint, I know that there was some controversy around the film when it was released, in that it has American, Western, if you like, actors playing roles which should clearly be played by Japanese actors. You know, I know why they did it, you know, in order to mainstream the manga series and to make it open to a wider audience. But without getting into this in depth, it's not really where I would like to go in my reviews. It's not what I'm about. A film's a film at the end of the day. But it was quite odd that they easternized, shall we say, Scarlett Johansson. It just kind of seemed like a grab for her namesake, really, which I think actually cheapened the overall science fiction elements in the movie. And even odder when you consider that the person she was before she became Major was indeed Japanese. For me, Scarlett Johansson wasn't the draw to this film. It was the premise. I actually found her portrayal of the character to be quite cold and methodical. You know, I know she was playing a cyborg, but essentially it was still a human brain at the helm. And unlike other such cyborgs, think RoboCop again, the human qualities is what the designers were actually after. And for me, it was quite hard to empathise with her. Many previous films have managed to capture our hearts with robots and cyborgs before, but there just seemed to be something missing in this performance in that respect for me. The rest of the characters, they were pretty unremarkable too. I mean, a couple stood out a little more than the rest perhaps, with this being Batau and Amaraki for different reasons. Batau, as although he was a company man, if you like, and played things very much by the book, or so we were told, you know, he had a rebellious side that actually came through, and a real lovable quality, especially with his tender side when caring for some stray dogs. Amaraki was a great character for me, and I would have liked to kind of seen a bit more. Okay, now, the acting from Takeshi Kitano was perhaps a bit square. It was a bit wooden. But he had one of the moments in the film where, you know, the bad guys think that they've got the upper hand just because the character's old. And much to their surprise and ultimate demise, he has more than a few tricks up his sleeve. It was just a real great moment, I thought, and a real nice touch, you know, just when you thought he was done for. Collectively, to be honest, I think the team itself took a bit of a back seat in this when, in actual fact, I think they should have made it more the main focus, perhaps. I think it might have resonated more with me than focusing on Scarlett Johansson's character. Overall, I know it was about that, but to see more of the teamwork and things would have been more beneficial, I think. Furthermore, another thing, the film's villain, Kuze, started off so mysterious, clever, orchestrated. But when you meet him for real, he appears absolutely nothing like that at all, and even seems weak, broken, disconnected, and even a little bit discombobulated at times. The two didn't really mesh for my liking. And given the build-up that had been presented, I felt a bit deflated in that respect after kind of seeing that villain for the first time. So overall, it's a film of two halves, really. The first is ingenious, a visual spectacle, intriguing. The second, well, it's a more glammed-up version of RoboCop. A very visual, stunning film and some excellent sci-fi concepts. It sets itself up for a very interesting ride, almost surreal in parts. However, it simply feels like it's been there and got the t-shirt entry in the way that it plays everything else thereafter, once it kind of gets into the bulk of its plot. Would I recommend the film? Yeah, I think I would. It was entertaining enough, and it contained enough action and sci-fi to hold my attention. It definitely did. I wouldn't say it was on the edge of your seat kind of stuff, but it had a few moments, and even if it's just for its visuals and its portrayal of its version of the future, I would recommend the film on those aspects alone, I think. I just think the film had more potential to be more than what it actually was. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like on this episode. Please do consider subscribing to SciFirst MovieTalk for more movie reviews, movie trailer reactions, and other movie-related episodes as we go along. But most of all, it's been lovely to have you. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.